Welcome. This is NKBA. This is Debbie Mayberry. You're here for the October kickoff of our webinars on storage solutions. I want to thank Gebrit for their generous sponsorship for all of our webinars for this month. Today's session is called The Importance of Functional Hardware, Designing from the Inside Out, with Karen Smith, who's the Brand Communication Coordinator with Blum Incorporated. And Karen, if you're there, we're ready to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name's Karen, and like Debbie mentioned, I work at Bloom within our marketing communications team. And if you don't know Bloom, we manufacture products and solutions for cabinetry such as hinges, drawer runners, box systems, lift systems, and even organization products. And one of the topics that I take care of here at Bloom is our research. Because of this, my specialty really lies in helping designers understand how to choose the right cabinet or cabinets for a space. Bloom is constantly doing research in kitchens and other parts of the home in order to continue providing products that help homeowners not only get the most out of their space, but also have an enjoyable experience. So we go about this research in several different ways. To find out what actually goes on in kitchens and to see what users really want, we keep close tabs on kitchen users. In November of 2017, I was part of a kitchens observation project, and this took place here in the United States. We visited homes all across the United States, from really big cities to small towns, to take a look and see how real people are using their kitchens. And we noted things like, what do they keep where? What hardware is in their cabinets? What kind of space is available? And we even asked them questions about what they love, what they hate about their kitchen, what they would change. And then after all that, we set up a video camera and we filmed them making a meal and doing everyday tasks such as, throwing things into the garbage or emptying the dishwasher or unloading groceries. And all of this information goes back to our research and development team in Bloom, Austria, and that's how we get ideas for new products. And I've also been part of trainings with our Age Explorer suit. So we own the rights to this suit within the kitchen industry, and it was developed by a team of geriatric researchers in Germany. It simulates physical limitations, so wearers can actually experience what it's like to cook with physical limitations and what special needs they may have in older age. The suit ages the wearer to about 70 years old, but luckily, once you put it on, it's a combination of worst case scenarios. We never know what happened or what may happen to our bodies as we age, so it's important to get these findings. How the suit works is first you attach the bindings that you see there on the left of your screen to your knees and your elbows to restrict joint movement. And then you add the suit, which has special stitching to further restrict movement, and it kind of hunches your shoulders down. And then 13 pounds of weights are added to the places where you naturally lose muscle mass over the years, your arms, shins, and your thighs. And then special gloves are worn to simulate decreased sensitivity in fingertips and arthritis. Earmuffs are used to change the way you hear, and glasses are worn to simulate the visual acuity of an average 65-year-old. And lastly, you have a visor that's worn over this, and it not only limits your peripheral vision, but it also adds a yellow tint to change the way that you see color, and this simulates cataracts. So our researchers wear the suit when developing products to ensure that they're easy to use for people of all generations and abilities. And when designing a kitchen, it's important to keep in mind that kitchens can last for more than 20 years. So the kitchens that we use in our 40s will likely feel much different in our 60s. Um, we we do take the suit around to some NKBA events, and perhaps you've even had the opportunity to wear it yourself. But wearing the suit really helps designers and even architects design spaces that their clients will be able to use at any age, especially since more people are choosing to age in place. What we don't think about too often, or what homeowners don't think about too often especially, is that there are two sides to every kitchen. There's the beautiful side that brings together the right colors and textures of a design, and then there's the functional side of the kitchen. And so today we're going to focus on more of the functional side of the kitchen, and function goes a lot deeper than how cabinets open and close. Function can even go as far as how we move around in our kitchens. Our friends in the UK developed this mind map, and it's quite overwhelming. But this graphic represents all the things homeowners have to decide or think about when designing a new kitchen. The decisions range from what kind of stove am I going to have, to what color faucet, to even what kind of sink or countertop material I might want. So hardly ever does the homeowner think about what kind of hardware they want inside of cabinets. They're typically focused on the aesthetic side, but they're becoming a little bit more educated to know that they want soft close, but that's typically as far as it goes. So what do we know about functional hardware? At Bloom, we know that it has to go with any trend, no matter if it's super traditional or ultra modern. We'd like for it to be hidden in order to not distract from the beauty of the cabinets. We know that we need solutions for different types of cabinets, such as face frame or frameless or inset, and we know that it should have good quality. But how important is it actually? For many homeowners, hardware can make or break a kitchen. So it can be a difference between a kitchen you love and a kitchen that you love to work in. We spend more than 300 hours a year in our kitchens just preparing meals. So we might as well make the experience an enjoyable one for our clients. Um, we know word of mouth advertising is the most influential and best kind of marketing there is. So today we're also going to focus on some ideas that will give your clients something worth talking about that's different than what your competitor down the street may offer them, and that is value. So how can we create value for our clients? Providing them with better equipped and more functional kitchens. Ricky and Ray Ward did a study and found that those who made kitchen improvements in the past year, 40% of homeowners say that they would spend more money if they could do it again. 60% of these regretters did a full remodel and had a fairly large budget. 65% used a designer, while 35% went through a contractor and 30% used an architect. This study also talked to designers, and when designers were asked what the top homeowner trade-offs were when splurging, 37% said functional hardware, but designers agree that they are worth the spend, saying that many clients often wish they would have gotten the soft close drawers, more rollouts, or lazy Susans. And designers also say that homeowners don't realize that getting cheaper cabinets would not last as long had they upgraded to all wood cabinets, and did not realize until afterward about the mistakes that they made. So how do we help reduce regret as it relates to hardware? We're going to look at some priorities to focus on to help your clients build their confidence in decisions and ultimately get you to help solve their problems. There are three major categories of a highly functional kitchen: workflow, space, and motion. We're going to talk about all three, but first let's just talk about workflow. When we take a step back and look at our kitchen observation videos, we can see that people all over the world share the same typical workflows in a kitchen, and they've been doing that for years. And a workflow could be something as simple as putting away groceries, emptying the dishwasher. And honestly, this is not a new concept. Back in 1912, Christine Frederick conducted a string study research project which related to the placement of kitchen cabinets and devices. This study helped show unnecessary walking paths when working in a kitchen, and she published her findings in Ladies' Home Journal. And then in 1940, the kitchen triangle idea was introduced by the University of Illinois School of Architecture to maximize the functionality of a kitchen. And they recognized that the three main functions in a kitchen being storage, preparation, and cooking, and the places for these functions should be arranged in such a way that work at one place does not interfere with work at another place, and the distance between these places is not unnecessarily large. But if we take a closer look at what activities are carried out in the kitchen and what we store in the kitchen, we can actually divide them into more than three zones. And we can actually divide them into five: food storage, tableware storage, preparation, cleaning, and cooking. And the idea behind these zones are as simple as store like things together and where they make sense for the kitchen user. Otherwise, if you were to carry out a string study with mixed zones, your path in the kitchen could look something like the previous slide after making a meal. So with mixed zones, users walk approximately 866 feet per day, which is nearly 1,200 miles over the course of 20 years. And that's the same distance as walking from Birmingham, Alabama to Boston. However, if you lay out a kitchen where everything is stored together, users only have to walk 688 feet per day, or 950 miles over the course of 20 years. And this is actually 25% less than the mixed zone kitchen that we just saw. So in this kitchen, if we were to mentally prepare a bowl of cereal, come in from the left side, we're looking at the gray sets of cabinets, come in and get the cereal out of the pantry, the milk out of the fridge, and then a bowl and a spoon out of the beige cabinets. And that's as much moving around as I would have to do before my coffee in the morning. But in a mixed zone kitchen, I could possibly be doubling my steps. Even something as placing the pantry beside the fridge can make a huge difference. Like in our example of making breakfast, users will walk up to 10% more per day in their kitchens. When making a meal or putting away groceries, workflow goes a lot smoother when everything is planned right there together. Here's another example. This is the original layout. The homeowner wanted to update their kitchen. They didn't like the layout, but wanted to keep the sink and the dishwasher in the same place. They were willing to get rid of the wall beside the refrigerator and extend the wall behind it if they needed to. This is an overhead view of the layout. So let's consider trying to make a sandwich in this kitchen. We would get the lunch meat and condiments out of the refrigerator and bread out of the pantry. We'd walk over and get a plate and knife to make a sandwich. We would take the lunch meat back to the refrigerator and the bread back to the pantry. We would grab the sandwich and the knife, drop the knife off at the sink, and then walk out of the kitchen. So after taking a look at the workflows, this is what they determined for their final layout. And here's the overhead view of the new kitchen. So if we were to make a sandwich in this kitchen, we would get the lunch meat and condiments out of the refrigerator, the bread out of the pantry, walk over and get a plate and a knife to make the sandwich, take the bread back to the pantry, take the lunch meat to the fridge, grab your sandwich, drop your knife off at the sink, and walk out of the kitchen. Other than aesthetics, the kitchen doesn't really appear too differently, but the cabinet selection and the placement is really what makes the difference in this kitchen. We can greatly reduce our footsteps and increase the convenience in this kitchen by placing zoned cabinets in a sensible workflow. Now, we understand that planning this type of workflow isn't always possible. You know, sometimes plumbing or appliances can't move, but still choosing cabinets to help store items that are needed in the area of the kitchen, you know, just keep this in mind. When working in the kitchen, workflow, we define it as synonymous with convenience. We've talked about why it's important to store items conveniently to where they may be needed, but there's actually another side of convenience, and that's ease of access. So our kitchen observation studies led us to also study postures when retrieving items in kitchens. We measured these postures with the Oveco Working Posture Analysis System, or OWAS, and that's been widely used to identify and evaluate harmful working postures. So it codes the postures with 84 standard combinations, 4 back, 3 arm, and 7 leg postures. And the system reveals the frequency and relative proportion of time spent in specific postures and assesses it on a 4-level scale of harmfulness. So this is important to think about especially when you think about how long a kitchen lasts, because crouching down and digging through layers of storage items may not be all that bad in our 40s, but how might it feel in our 50s and 60s, or if we were to have some type of disability? So talking more about ergonomics, um, where is the optimal place to store items? You can think about it by frequency of access and what hardware is actually planned in the cabinets. So in this diagram that you're looking at, it's a partial extension drawer on top of a door with two shelves. The red portion indicates where infrequently used items should be stored in relation to the ergonomics of reaching that item. The blue indicates easily accessible items, and the yellow indicates something in between. Now, if we were to switch this cabinet to one that looks like this with a partial extension drawer, frequently used items are accessible toward the front and top of the two drawers, with the less frequently used items in the back and in the bottom drawer. But if we plan for full extension drawers in the base cabinets, frequently used items are easily accessible in the top two drawers, and reaching items in the bottom layer becomes much easier than the typical door shelf option. So full extension drawers to me are one of those things that you don't know how good they are until you have experienced them. Partial extension drawers and base cabinets are a much better option than the door shelf cabinets as we've seen. But with full extension drawers, they bring the very back corners out into view so you don't have to scrape your knuckles trying to pry something out of the back of the drawer. And this is where we can start planning kitchens from the inside out and really individualizing a kitchen to your client. So most designers like you probably have a questionnaire or list of questions that they ask clients before getting started on a project. And as we get further along in our talk today, keep that list of questions in mind and think about possibly what you could add to that list to dig a little deeper into how your client really moves around in their kitchen. One example is, does your client prefer to bulk shop? Do they buy bulk meat and separate it and refreeze it? If so, it may be important to plan a drawer for freezer bags in the pantry. That way, when they're putting away groceries, they have access to the bags and can separate and store meat without running back and forth all over the kitchen. Going along with that same thought, not only is it important to store things where it makes the most sense, the fridge by the pantry or the pots with the stove, but it's also important to think about what level these items are going to be stored within a kitchen. For example, a toaster oven. During our kitchen observations, we had a lady that stored her toaster on the bottom shelf of her base cabinet in the very back in a shoebox for the crumbs. So we asked her, how often do you use this toaster? And she said that she used it at least one time a day. She would get down on her hands and knees and dig through layers of Tupperware to get it out, and then she would put it back up. And we told her, we were like, wow, that seems like a lot of work. Why do you store that there? And she said, well, that's where my mom always stored it. And we hear that pretty often. So this chart could be a helpful tool in situations like that. You could talk about this with your clients, or you could use this in conjunction with a few other ideas to help create a blueprint for storage goods. Deciding where to put your storage items can be overwhelming when moving back into a kitchen, or you just end up storing things where your mom did. But if you helped your clients create a blueprint of what cabinet should hold what, and you know that it's going to make working in their kitchen easier, that's definitely something they'll probably tell their neighbors about. So moving on to the next cornerstone of a highly functional kitchen is space. There's nothing that a functional kitchen needs more than enough space. And there's nothing worse than your client finding out they don't have enough space for everything when they're ready to move back into their kitchen. So this is a problem that you've probably heard. Homeowners wish they had more space in their kitchen. Bloom's research shows that 66% of people want more accessible storage space, and as much as 80% of people store kitchen items in other parts of the home. So like the frequency of use for storage needs differ from homeowner to homeowner, so do space requirements. It really depends on their lifestyle, cooking, shopping habits, and whether or not they've got a big family. Going back to the regret survey we talked about before, done by Ricky and Ray Ward, 32% of homeowners wish that they would have spent more money on storage and organizational features, and 30% agree that they would have spent more money on the cabinets themselves. So in this section, we're going to look at how we can reduce regret as it relates to storage and cabinet selection. If your clients don't cook often or have a lot of space, a narrow spice drawer is probably the way to go. The owner of this kitchen, for example, or this drawer here, obviously enjoys cooking and needs a lot of room for pots and pans. And this wide pantry unit is ideal for a big family. So again, thinking about those questions that you ask your clients at the beginning of a project, do you talk about these things with them? And if you do, how in depth do you go? And what information does that give you for planning? We know that we can't always change floor plans to get a bigger kitchen footprint, and we know that there are cabinet standards in place and actually have been since 1932. President Hoover created the Committee on Household Management to standardize the art of home building. So such things as cabinet width, height, sink depth, cabinet arrangement, stove placement, cabinet materials, countertops, all of these things were analyzed with many standards being set into practice. And honestly, very few changes have been made to cabinet standards since this study. But there are a few things that we can do to sneak more space into our kitchens without having to change the size of the room. For example, you may be able to fit a lot into two narrow drawers, but if you combine the two into one wide drawer, that gives you up to 15% more storage space. And then thinking about a narrow top drawer, if you made a deeper drawer, you could get up to 55% more storage space. Even cabinet solutions themselves can open up the opportunity for more storage space. Typically, the space around the sink basin is lost, and the space under my sink is like a no man's land. So there's no telling what all I have shoved under there. And I keep my drain plugs, sponges, dish soap on the counter because there's not really a good place to store those items, and those are things that I need every day. But if I had this type of cabinet, the space that's typically lost around the sink can be put to good use. It can be used to store dishcloths, sponges, scrubbers, and more. Though there are certain things to keep in mind with this application, for example, knowing that a cabinet should be about a foot wider than the width of the sink bowl, or that the combination of the weight and of the counter, the type of sink, garbage disposal, it might not work with this solution, but it's still a useful application. You can use it in a bar sink or even for a bathroom vanity. And then we also have the corner solution here. Instead of a typical Lazy Susan style cabinet, if you use full extension drawers in your corner, it adds a layer of storage space. So now let's talk about what actually fits into each cabinet. The cabinets you see here are from a typical spec book. If you showed this to your clients, could they visualize what to put in here? Probably not. And that's something that you can help them with. So first we'll look at the space available and how large typical storage items are, and then compare that to how much available space is in each cabinet, and keeping in mind which level it fits and if it makes sense there. So here's a drawer base, and think about where it would be placed in a typical layout and what storage items are needed for that area of the kitchen. And think about, will this cabinet suit those storage items? Are the drawers deep enough? So all the items that you see in orange fit, and the ones in gray would not fit in this cabinet. This is a 4-drawer base, so thinking about what items fit versus what items would not fit. With 2 deep drawers, you could get a lot more to fit, but what would you actually store there, and then what kind of space would you be losing? And then we have this cabinet, and it's so popular in kitchen layouts, but what can we actually store in there? We could put dish towels, flatware, and utensils in this cabinet, but what would you put on that small space on the bottom level? And would you need to access it often? Would you have to bend down to get it all the time? And this is how sometimes we can rule out certain cabinets. And in thinking about this too, we also should think about organization. So it's important to choose organizational items that make sense for what's going to be stored in that drawer and without taking up more space than necessary. So deep drawer organization is possible, and it's important to choose items that ensure everything has its place even when storage goods change. Or for things like lids to plastic containers, using deep drawer organization, a place can be created to keep everything within easy sight and easy reach. And when things are properly organized, they're much easier to see and retrieve. And by bringing the entire contents out to the user, drawers eliminate the need to dig through layers of items on a shelf. With so many different types of kitchen gadgets and utensils, it reinforces the idea to have a more adjustable storage system. These storage goods don't always last, and if one breaks and the kitchen user has to buy a new one to replace it, it's not always guaranteed that the new item will be the same size. So really thinking about when you're planning organization, plan for adjustability. What about an organized junk drawer? That may be unheard of, but think about an older person fishing through a drawer for a paper clip that has paper clips, rubber bands, post-it notes, and push pins. And thinking about the older person that may have decreased sensitivity in their fingertips, having sharp things like push pins in their own designated section may not be such a bad idea. And we can really use this beyond a junk drawer and think about a utensil drawer or a drawer that may have knives in it. So just making sure that everything has its proper place. Plate storage. You can even store plates in drawers. When we think about lifting plates into a wall cabinet versus lowering them into a drawer, think about your grandmother trying the same exercises. A plate holder for a base cabinet makes it easier for people to grasp and lift out of the drawer as opposed to having just a stack of plates, which can be difficult to slip your fingers under them to lift out of a drawer. And then lifting from a drawer to a countertop is much easier on the body than lifting a heavy stack of plates into a wall cabinet. So now that we've talked about storage goods, their sizes, and organization to go along with it, consider the area of the kitchen where items need to be used and what other items that may need to be stored with them. So remembering our zones for storage items and typical workflows, we can create zoned cabinets. And we can rule out which cabinets don't make sense for a functional kitchen. Like this one, there are not enough of any storage items from one zone to fill up that cabinet. Once you've identified your cabinets based on zone, you could even think about offering a package cabinet solution for your clients. So this means that the price that you set for the cabinet includes everything that you see, from all the external aesthetic options to the inner workings of the drawers and the organizational items. So what this would mean for you would be no more upselling. Leave it up to the homeowner to remove the organization items they don't want. But once someone is sold on the idea of having a completely organized kitchen and no more kneeling and stretching into a cabinet, deciding what items to take out will actually become a tough choice. We'll talk more on this later, but people sell themselves on the way something makes them feel, and we make decisions based on emotion and then justify our purchases with reason. So when you talk to your clients about the items that they want to store in their kitchen, ask if they have anything tucked away in the garage or the basement that they'd really like to have in the kitchen. And asking these specific questions can help you build a better relationship with your client. And when you plan specific cabinets that will organize their items, you've really sealed the deal. I mentioned before that you could create a blueprint of storage goods for your clients when their kitchen is complete. Imagine handing them something like this to remind them where everything should be stored. You've now made it so much easier for them when they begin to put everything away in their new kitchen. So now we've reached the final cornerstone of a highly functional kitchen, and that's motion. And what I really mean by motion when it comes to kitchens is quality. So when cabinets open easily and run smoothly and have a soft and silent close, no matter how much weight is in the drawer, that is the hallmark of a functional kitchen. When quality hardware is used, there is a higher comfort level when working in the kitchen, and that really contributes to the overall ambience of a space. So all in all, kitchen drawers, doors, and wall cabinets are opened and closed more than 80 times a day. So that adds up to about 30,000 times each year. And the refrigerator alone is opened and closed 30 times a day. So when we think about all that opening and closing, we really need cabinets to be easy to open. And there are several different options when it comes to opening a drawer or cabinet. Users can open the cabinet with a pull or a knob. With this option, even wide pots and pans drawers should open with a very light pull. For handleless designs, your clients could choose between a mechanical or an electrical assisted opening. And we've heard that this is really good for people with arthritis that can't quite grasp the knob or the pull. And it's also especially handy, at least for the waste drawer. So imagine you have a handful of chicken guts, and instead of using your germy hands to open the door and then pull out the trash can, you just bump the front with your knee and the trash can comes out to you. All right, the next section, running action. So drawers should be easy to operate. The smooth running of drawers is important, especially when there's a lot of weight in the drawer. And an upper cabinet's heavy or wide front should open smoothly and stop at any position. And cabinets should also be easy to close. One thing that we're hearing is more homeowners are requesting soft close or quiet close, and that's becoming a standard, excuse me, in all mid to high-end kitchens. So whether drawers are heavy or light, they should close quietly and softly all the way with a single fluid push. So now that we've talked about the ins and outs of workflow, space, and motion, let's talk about how it can set you apart from your competition. Think about what sets you apart from your competition right now. Is it the door styles that you offer? Is it your finishes, your paints, or your glazes? Do you set yourself apart by price? Are all these things pretty much in line with your competitors? If you adopt any of the principles that we've talked about today, you can set yourself apart by providing a much more functional kitchen for every person that you work with, creating more value for your client and then in turn for yourself. So I mentioned earlier that word of mouth advertising is the most influential kind of advertising, and I want to dig into that a little bit more. When we talk about word of mouth advertising, 75% of people actually don't believe in advertisements, but 92% of people believe brand recommendations from their friends. And word of mouth advertising generates 2 times more sales than paid ads, and people are 4 times more likely to buy when referred from friends. So you have roughly 30 inches of space to create something unique for the homeowner. While aesthetics partly make a kitchen unique, what really individualizes one kitchen to the next are the items the user needs to store and how that they want to work in their kitchen. So you could create a cabinet that looks like this with a pair of runners and 4 hinges. But what if you gave them a cabinet like this? This cabinet would better suit their needs, and it's one that they're sure to show off all of their friends. Would you buy a car based on a drawing or without driving it first? Of course you wouldn't. You want to know that the car suits your needs and that the controls are easy to reach, make sense in their placement. There are enough cup holders for you and your family. The seats are going to be comfortable for long drives and durable enough to withstand daily use. We don't buy a car without testing it out first. So why do we expect consumers to buy a kitchen based on a rendering? So this is where your showroom really comes in handy. This is an idea for a good, better, best display. It features an example of good planning, better planning, and then the best planning. So in this section, it would feature good, and then the better section, and then the best section. It shows partial extension versus full extension. It shows organization. It shows ergonomics and accessibility. You could prop each level the same and ask consumers to take something out of the good option and out of the best option so they could see for themselves how much easier drawers and base cabinets are. And that really shows the ease of access to all your cabinets. With doors, they can block into neighboring cabinets. This is, again, showing things stored at the same place in every cabinet, and then the accessibility between. So in the first one, obviously it's a door and shelf option. The second one, there's no organization, and then in the third, there is organization. And here's again how doors can block neighboring cabinets versus if you had a lift up door all the way across, you wouldn't have this issue. There are ideas for comparison displays. The exact same storage items can be found in both of these cabinets. We point out the space usage and storage options between the two cabinets. We have clients imagine emptying the dishwasher with those doors open overhead versus emptying the dishwasher with the door that lifts up and out of the way. We try opening the waste bin in the left set of cabinets while your hands are full, and then open them in the right set of cabinets where the waste bin comes out with just a light touch on the drawer front. And the way that we do this, the ping pong balls that you see, we actually have them scoop them up so their hands are full and then try to get into the waste cabinet. So the University of Rochester School of Medicine published an interesting study a few years ago based on brain activity imaging. And it helped reveal that emotions are an undeniable part of our decision-making process. In fact, if you eliminate the emotional guiding factors, it's impossible for people to make decisions in daily life. So people with damaged prefrontal lobes, or the area of the brain where emotions are processed, are completely mystified when it comes to making personal decisions, such as scheduling a doctor's appointment, wearing a seatbelt, and yes, even deciding what to buy for themselves. So when humans make personal decisions, they put themselves in the picture and they evaluate the emotional risks or benefits of making that decision. If they can't grab onto the emotional image, they can't make the decision. So that's why you always, always, always have to appeal to the emotions. It's not facts that convince customers to go with your company, it's emotions. Former marketing executive for Nike and Starbucks once said, a great brand taps into emotions. Emotions drive most, if not all, of our decisions. So think about this. What industry has showrooms without salespeople that consistently, almost daily, get consumers to buy items they didn't want or didn't plan to buy? If you said to yourself, supermarkets, you are right. The products sell themselves. And why is that? It all comes down to visualization. So consumers aren't able to visualize much. If I said pots and pans cabinet, what do you imagine? Do you think that your clients would imagine the same thing? Would you be able to store other things in that cabinet besides pots and pans? You sell your products based on the way that you promote them. I've been in numerous showrooms and I've seen this many, many times, empty drawers and impersonal spaces. And honestly, if I didn't work at Bloom, I'd have no idea what I was even looking at. It looks sterile and it looks like something that probably belongs in a doctor's office. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen counter samples, invoices, broken light bulbs, and counter decorations in the drawers. We always need to keep in mind that consumers don't know what they're looking at. And if they don't know what they're looking at, they can't know what they're paying for. So how can we get them to get excited about this stuff when we can't show them how awesome it is? This drawer has the same organization in it. Do you see a difference? It costs a little bit of money to prop a cabinet, but if you save empty boxes from home, you could tape up the opening and you could put it in the cabinet or pick up little things here and there, and it will make a huge difference over time. So another example, this is a showroom. In this image, all the drawers are empty. And then this one is fully propped. So having cabinets in a showroom that are fully propped really, again, makes all the difference in the world. The sale is easier when the homeowner gets to walk into a showroom and open the cabinets and see items like theirs inside and experience the different solutions and products. And when a consumer sees storage goods in a drawer, it draws them in by their emotional connection to the items they see. They begin to relate to the items, they can imagine them in their home. Propping showroom displays is extremely important no matter what kind of displays are shown, excuse me. Without props, a cabinet is just like every other cabinet and a drawer is just like every other drawer. Consumers expect to walk in a showroom and open a cabinet and see where the showroom stores their extra countertop samples. They expect to see cabinets with doors in the base unit. What will stick in their minds if they walk in a showroom and pull open a drawer base and see a U base around the sink? Or if they open a wall cabinet with a lift system and are able to push a button to close it? Or if they see an automatic opening with a push on the drawer front and can imagine their hands full of garbage? These are experiences that will sell the homeowner on why they must have that in their kitchen. And what can it do for your sales? So since adding props to his cabinet, Martin Layfield sales leapt from 25 to 60%. So no matter what you use to spice up your showroom, it's really important to remember that the traditional showroom of yesterday needs to play to the expectations of today's shopper. We live in a Google society where consumers are more educated than ever before, and businesses are having to quickly adapt to the expectations of today's shopper, experiences, and entertainment. So I'm by no means saying run out and change your whole showroom, but hopefully after today, you can take a step back and think about how to persuade consumers from a functionality standpoint, conduct reviews and interviews from past clients, and find out what's working and where you have room to make bigger impacts. So just to summarize up everything that we've talked about today, and I wanted to save some time at the end in case anybody had questions, um, just a quick summary. Good quality hardware can make or break a kitchen. So help your clients choose hardware that can withstand up to 20 years of typical use in a kitchen and reduce that regret factor for them. Design from the inside out. So dive into each client's workflows and how they prefer to use their kitchens. Talk with your clients to discover personal needs in the kitchen. For example, do they need an above average size pots and pans drawer because they love cooking? Offering packaged cabinets complete with interior organization that could help you prevent upselling and let the homeowner decide what they'd like to take out or remove. Help your clients create a blueprint for their kitchen after discovering what items should be stored where, or to help them when they get ready to move back into their new kitchen. Choose wide or deep drawers to sneak more space out of a layout. And what are some ways that you can spice up your showroom? Is it by propping? Is it by adding a good, better, best or comparison display to walk your walk your clients through? So all of these things I hope have given you something to think about and some ideas to take back with you. I think that's it for me, Debbie.
Okay, Karen. Well, thank you so much. And again, we want to thank Gebra for sponsoring today's session. And let's see here, the questions are starting to come in. I see more thoughts on base. Do you have thoughts on base cabinet lighting with pressure switch control?
Ooh, I have not heard of the pressure switch control, but I do believe in cabinets with base lighting, especially thinking about the older population and how our vision decreases and how kitchens last for a span of 20 years. I think lighting in base cabinets is a very good idea.
Okay, well, let's see here. Here's another one. How do we spec your product?
That's a good question. If you're looking for something in particular, when you get my email, I can help you out from there or put you in touch with one of our product managers.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Karen. Here comes some more. What do you think about interior lighting in cabinets?
So,
I'm
like I
sorry,
said
I
before,
wasn't sure if you heard me.
no, you're totally good. Lighting in cabinets always a good idea.
Okay. For a newer kitchen, can hardware be retrofitted?
Some of our hardware can be retrofitted. It really just depends on the application.
Oh, okay.
And again, if you have specific questions, you can email those to me and I can get you some help.
Okay, good. I'm just looking to see if there are any other questions out there. Just, let's see here. I see. Yeah, I'm going to answer this one. There's the information will come to you, everyone, via the recording. So we don't give out the slides, but the recording will be available to you. Let's see. There's some more questions that came in here, Karen. It says, can you name some of your pantry storage systems so that we know what's available and through which suppliers?
Okay, so for the suppliers, on our website, we have a list of distributors. And for our pantry organization, we have deep drawer organization products. And if it's for a wood drawer, it's most likely going to be Orgaline for deep drawer. And if you want to reach out to me specifically, I can get you a copy of that brochure that kind of lays out what all we have.
Okay, great. Someone's asking, do you have motorized hardware?
We do. It's called Servo Drive. So it is the push to open on anywhere on the cabinet front and the drawer comes out to you, or the door if you're talking about a lift up door system. And then if it's a drawer, it's just a push to close. And then for a wall cabinet with the lift up door, it has a button that you can push to close the door.
Okay, I think that answered the next question then. Um, yes, I'll answer this one. Someone's saying this is fantastic, so thank you, Karen, and thank you out
Well,
there.
thank you.
And then they're wondering if they can share the recording with colleagues. Yes, of course you can. You're more than welcome to. The only thing is that we don't offer the CEU for the recording. That's all. Are there any other questions out there? We have a couple more minutes, and Karen's still with us. Okay, what options do you prefer for storage convenience over the refrigerator?
Over the refrigerator, we don't really have specifically like organization, but we do recommend a lift up door there just for ease of use. If that
Okay,
helps.
that's good to know. Yep. Any other questions out there before we close for the day? I want to make sure I'm capturing everything here. Okay. Can the hardware be operated by phone? Now that's a great question.
Not yet, but perhaps in the future.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Well, I want to thank all of you. I'm not seeing any more questions out there. We're going to wrap it up just a little bit early today. Again, I want to thank Gebert for generously sponsoring today's session. I want to thank you, Karen Smith, for being a part of today's session and giving us all this great information, and all of you out there. And I hope you all have a
Yes,
great
thank you,
day.
everybody.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks,
Bye.
Debbie.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.